The saxophone has been called everything from the most moving and heart-gripping wind instrument to the devil's horn. Lisa Simpson and Bill Clinton all play it. The instrument's creator, Adolphe Sax, was controversial and lived a badass life, which is apt. In 1814, Sax was born in Dinan, Belgium. Antoine Joseph Sax was his birth name, although he was known as Adolphe from infancy. Why he picked Adolphe and why he didn't use his given name are unknown. As the son of Charles Sax, a carpenter who became a renowned instrument manufacturer, Adolphe Sax, a flutist and clarinetist, was surrounded by music. Sax showed his enthusiasm for wind instruments early in his adolescence by improving and creating new wind instruments. Sax was lucky to survive childhood, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. Listen up, history lovers. Welcome to Hallmark History. Let's get to know the life of Adolphe Sax, a musical prodigy who not only invented one of the most recognizable instruments in history but also miraculously survived not one but multiple brushes with death. Sax had a life filled with dangerous situations that would have killed a lesser being. However, he persisted in the face of adversity and produced some of the most stunning music in history. Sax, who was described as being prone to accidents, experienced a string of increasingly bizarre mishaps throughout his childhood, several of which came dangerously close to taking his life. Sax's first significant incident happened when he was 3 years old and fell down 3 flights of stairs, slamming his head unceremoniously onto the stone floor at the bottom. The reported effects range from being bedridden for that time period and unable to stand up properly to being in a coma for a week. Later, a young Sax would unintentionally ingest a large needle, which he miraculously managed to pass through without incident or harm. A mixture of white lead, copper oxide, and arsenic consumed him as a child because he seemed to enjoy ingesting things that could harm him. In a different incident, Sax is said to have fallen onto a stove that was on fire by accident and suffered severe side burns. Fortunately, he appeared to avoid the severe infection that can occasionally occur after such, though a part of his body was permanently scarred. When he was 10 years old and fell into a river, that incident may have been the closest to his demise. Sax was floating face down near a mill before a random villager noticed this fact. He was immediately rescued from the water and later came to. But hold on, we're not done yet. In a different incident, he was standing next to a gunpowder container when it exploded, sending him flying across his father's workshop. A young Sax was struck by a large slate tile that flew off a nearby roof and struck him directly in the head, temporarily knocking him out of commission and courting death once more. Due to all of these wounds, Sax's understandably concerned mother, Maria, publicly declared that her young son was condemned to misfortune and that he would not survive. Sax's numerous near-death experiences also led to his neighbors calling him the ghost child from Dinan in jest. As noted, Sax constructed musical instruments while prepping for a Final Destination movie audition. He was so good that when the youngster became an adult and started submitting his instruments to the Belgian National Exhibition, the judges consistently recommended him for the gold medal. Due to his age, the central jury refused him this. They informed him that if he won gold, he would have reached the competition's apex and wouldn't have anything to aim for next year. Georges Kesna, a friend of Sax, claims that while Sax was away, someone kicked the saxophone, sending it flying and damaging it too badly to enter the competition. Sax's other instruments helped him win the premier gold medal at the exhibition, but the central jury again rejected him. Sax's statement, "If I am too young for the gold medal, I am too old for the silver," sealed the deal. Sax, an adult who had outgrown Dinan, moved to Paris. In 1839, he traveled to Paris to present clarinetist Isaac da Costa his bass clarinet design. After hearing and playing Sax's bass clarinet, da Costa was smitten. He introduced Sax to many famous Parisian musicians. After being rejected at the exhibition, Sax discovered that certain French government officials wanted to resurrect the French military bands and were looking for better instruments. He deliberated before heading to the large metropolis. After arriving in Paris in 1842 with 30 francs, Sax persuaded Hector Berlioz to inspect his instruments. On June 12, 1842, the journal Databots issued a glowing review. Unfortunately, this started a lifelong issue for Sax. The other Parisian musical instrument producers formed an alliance to kill Sax. He wrote, Adolphe Sax of Brussels is a smart, persistent, and resourceful thinker. He is an acoustician, calculator, smelter, turner, and engraver when needed. He thinks and acts. He creates. Composers will owe M. Sax a lot when his instruments become popular. I hope he keeps going, artists will back him. This work earned Sax a concert at the Paris Conservatoire, which was a hit. Sax rapidly made acquaintances with prominent musicians and composers who were amazed by his work and his 1839 connections. Sax easily raised the funds needed to create the Adolphe Sax musical instrument factory. The other Parisian musical instrument manufacturers feared that this young Belgian upstart, who seemed to be a prodigy at developing and refining instruments, would overwhelm them. Thus, competitors used defamatory newspaper articles, litigation, and boycotts to ruin him. Sax challenged other musicians, tarnishing his name in public musical duels. His instruments were often ignored or abused. Sax won these duels due to his outstanding talent for making and playing high-quality instruments. It's unclear if he was challenged here. Hector Berlioz, a harasser, wrote on October 8, 1843, "It's hard to see this great young artist struggling to grow in Paris and preserve his place. His persecutions are medieval and evocative of Benvenuto, the Florentine sculptor's enemy. They steal his designs, his workers, his insanity, and his legal charges. Inventionless rivals hate inventors. His grandiose ideas worsen things." As noted, he arrived in Paris to obtain a large deal with the French military to utilize his instruments exclusively. He believed his new, sophisticated saxophone would lead this. Despite its current popularity, the saxophone was a revolutionary instrument when it was invented. In his evaluation, Berlioz said the saxophone cries, laments, and dreams. It crescendos and progressively mutes till it turns crepuscular. The saxophone's high register is irritating and gloomy, while the low register is magnificent and pontifical. I think the saxophone has the best deep voice for strange, gloomy music. Sax may have introduced the saxophone around 1842. At the Paris Industrial Exhibition in 1844, Sax performed a rousing solo from behind a curtain. Why? Since he hadn't filed for a patent, Sax opted to keep his instrument's design a secret to avoid copycats. Military arises. French military music was shamed. The French government appointed a group to investigate creative ways to reform military bands for patriotism. On April 22, 1845, 20,000 Parisians attended a concert 2 months after announcing this and soliciting manufacturers to submit instruments for military usage. The concert featured 2 bands, one playing traditional instruments and the other using saxophones and other sax-modified instruments. Both bands played Adolphe Adam. Sax band triumphed. On August 9, 1845, they gave Sax a large military contract. This was the final straw. When Belgian Sax won the contract to supply the French military, his rivals formed an association that could have been called the Anti-Sax Club, but instead chose l'Association Générale des Ouvriers en Instruments de Musique, the United Association of Instrument Makers. It didn't want France's top instrument maker. Sax was constantly persecuted. If you can't beat him, sue him was the organization's longtime strategy to keep Sax in court. This group first challenged Sax's saxophone patent application, alleging the instrument didn't exist. After that failed, they said Sax copied other makers' designs and made the instrument unmusical. They subsequently submitted many earlier instruments, but the court couldn't find a saxophone similar to prevent the patent. Sax dropped his patent application and let others build saxophones. His opponent's year to recreate the instrument failed. Before the year ended, he resubmitted his patent application, which was approved on June 22, 1846, without opposition. Sax's workshop mysteriously caught fire, and an anonymous assassin shot one of his assistants in the head, assuming it was Sax. The United Association of Instrument Makers was accused of both incidents, showing they weren't satisfied with just ruining his life and business metaphorically. As we say goodbye to Adolphe Sax, we remember his incredible perseverance in creating the saxophone. The human spirit's resiliency is shown by the pursuit of his passion and dedication to his craft. Let us honor his legacy by continuing to create and innovate despite seemingly insurmountable barriers. Please like and subscribe to my channel for more inspiring stories like this and share this video with your friends.